Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today in our 7th lesson on Excellent Essay Writing series, where we shall be sharing with you ways of writing well an argumentative or general paper essay. And today's discussion, lesson 7, we shall be sharing with you how you may write on the PEL body paragraph structure. So the PEL body paragraph structure is actually one of the most stable and well-known paragraph structures that are used mostly in junior colleges across Singapore, as well as secondary schools that are teaching discursive and argumentative essay writing techniques. And in a sense, it's good to run it through with you. But within the PL structure, one thing that we need to actually work well on will be what are the options exercised in terms of the topic sentence, in terms of elaboration, exemplification, and the link, which will be detailed further on in our lessons. So to recap, in our essay discussion and the structure, you would have the main body paragraphs after the introduction. So main body paragraphs, there will be about 4, in some cases for your sample essay, 5 body paragraphs. And each paragraph, if you look through on your own time, you realize that they actually follow a set system and structure to enable consistency and predictability in the writing process, especially if you're writing within a time frame of 90 minutes and you want to make sure that the essay comes out well. You want to ensure that by using PL structure, you can replicate and reproduce your ideas relatively well, and that each idea is coherent and demonstrate a different set of concepts, different set of examples as well. So really that's the whole purpose of running through the PL structure. Not so much because you can't write without structure, but with structure things are made easier and they are made much more consistent as well. So on that note, what exactly is PL structure? PL structure is a handy reference that teachers use to share with students the whole concept of how when you write, you want to have a point, which is what is the topic you're writing on. You want to have elaboration, how did the issue develop from where we started off with, and you want to have exemplification, which specific situation, thing, event, or person demonstrates a point, as well as a link as to why is the issue important to society. So in our future lessons, lesson number 8, 9, 10, and 11, I will be sharing with you in greater detail each of these steps. But for today's discussion, what we are looking into is to have a broad overview, and this will be done with some reference to one of your body paragraphs from your sample essay, the one on parents and the imposition of beliefs and values on their children. Right, so to recap, this would actually be the paragraph that we're looking at. And you notice that the paragraph looks as it is at this point in time, fairly plain and without any embellishments. And it looks as if it's quite easily done because there's an end point. But what really goes behind it, really goes into the whole writing process, can in a sense be divided into body paragraph structure. And you realize that this is actually how the whole paragraph forms up, right? The topic, sentence, a point, the elaboration, exemplification, and link. And what I'm going to do with you now is to share with you how each of these are actually written, at least broadly speaking. Okay, so when you're working on the point or the topic sentence, the whole concept is to have a main issue or idea, and it should also address the question. So later on in our next lesson, we'll go in detail over here, but briefly, you notice that there are 2 parts to the topic sentence at least, right? Conservatives the world over would argue that society supports parents' moral obligation to impose their values and beliefs that emphasize socially acceptable beliefs and practices. So you notice the whole concept of acceptable, socially acceptable beliefs and practices. Now this would actually be the portion where you are addressing the question. But there is also a reasoning process behind it. Why should you do so? There is a moral obligation. So this is actually the cause portion of the topic sentence. And this is critical because the rest of the paragraph centers on exactly what do you mean by, what do you define by moral obligation. So at a simple glance, that is actually the topic sentence structure that you need to adopt. That is, generally speaking, most stable, although there are other possible means of writing in the topic sentence or the point. So once you're done with writing a topic sentence or point, then the second portion of the paragraph will be the elaboration component. So the elaboration component of the topic sentence, of the paragraph, centers around the reason and background information relating to the point, what went on before. So in a sense, most of the time, the topic sentence or the point relates to issues in the present tense, but when you're writing elaboration component, there could be some reference to what's happened before that, right? So, and you notice that over here, the whole concept is to demonstrate that there's some degree of interaction at the human level between institutions, people, between different groups in society. So one way of building this up, and you'll be seeing quite a lot of this in our lessons on elaboration, will be the use of the SMART criteria. So SMART criteria over here is what I've developed over years of practice, and it refers broadly to a concept of situation, mindset, action, relationship and trend, and how each of these can, in a sense, be utilized. So you notice that over here, the elaboration following through on topic sentence. You notice that the word concerned is very much a mindset issue, right? It is a word that reflects the concept of people's states of mind. And at the same time, there is the word trends over here, which very much is, in a sense, the word trends by itself. So you notice that what is happening here for the elaboration component is that by having in mind some preset words that are more common to the criteria. So if you want to use the concept of mindset, you have the word concern. You may have the word belief or perception, for instance. You can navigate and center your elaboration on those words. So for most students, when you sit for major examinations, your preliminary examinations, or A-levels, you may want to consider having about 6 to 8 words from each criteria that you're very comfortable with, and in a sense, utilize it in the elaboration process. And this is actually universal. It does not matter which topic that you're writing on in a paragraph. What happens is that once you build out a topic sentence well, the elaboration component will center on your word of choice. You're framing it, as it were, either in a positive or negative way, accordingly to the question paragraph and the positioning, right? So in a sense, that's at the most basic level, elaboration, okay, how the issue came to be, right? In a sense, the narration of the event, right? And where you narrate the event elaboration, the follow-through is to give a specific example or exemplification to demonstrate the point. So exemplification is really specific references to human interactions. The STP criteria I mentioned just now briefly earlier on becomes useful. You are looking at a prior situation, thing, event, or person that demonstrate the issue. Sometimes it's a composite of all 3 things or all 4 things together. So over here, for instance, you notice I try to highlight at least the events first, right? Increasing calls by the people involved, concerned parents, okay, the people, as well as the events. So at the very least, when I build out the rest of the elaboration, exemplification, it will be built up well. And you notice that there is an issue being centered as well. So in a sense, the concept of thing over here may not exactly be a specific device, although that could actually be something that is utilized if you're writing an essay on, say, for instance, science and technology, for instance. But it could be a specific issue that requires people to center on. And of course, it illustrates the point about the paragraph, which is about imposing of values and beliefs, right? So using physical punishment as a means of imposing beliefs and a sense of decorum on children, for instance. Why is it that it is frowned upon based on what you're writing in this paragraph? Okay, so when you're working on exemplification, try to make sure that things are more specific. You're telling me how did the issue came to be, why is it specifically that way as well? Okay, so once that is done, then the last portion of the paragraph, which is very critical, is to have the link portion. So the link portion is where we have to really be very careful not to just simply repeat the topic sentence. Unbeknownst to them, if students will just accept sometimes the well-meaning advice of teachers to say that you must link back to the question and to the paragraph topic sentence, students may inadvertently just decide to repeat the topic sentence. Now, if you do that, that is just simply repeating or stating obvious, and it is not really pushing or carrying through the paragraph. So in a sense, the link is not only about the reiteration of the points, but really to show the societal implications and the outcomes, okay? Meaning to say you're looking really into what happens next. What's next? And more importantly, whether is it a good or a bad thing for society, building up for an example. So in the long term, following through for an example, potentially what happens next. So when you want to utilize this portion, well, it really is about not just link, but the whole concept of evaluations. Why is something good or bad? And for that particular purpose, when I run through the relevance lesson number 11 on the paragraph development series over here, we'll actually be looking into the use of LOV criteria. So again, a simple acronym demonstrating the criteria and the factors of livelihood, organization, values, and experience that are, in a sense, critical to help you organize your concepts as well as categorize the ideas well. So that again, accordingly, depending on the example you use, you can fairly quickly put in the keywords that are demonstrating these particular outcomes. So for instance, over here, this particular sample, notice the outcome of following through these laws, the reasoning process behind why parents want to impose values and beliefs on their children, right? So notice that I mentioned the idea of decorum. Now, decorum is actually very much a whole idea of politeness, social graciousness, and that in a sense is actually very much centered on the idea of values in a society. So let's say, for instance, I didn't have this, but a different student that's writing this wanted to bring across from the same example a different criteria. Maybe the criteria will not be on values, But perhaps the criteria could be on organization. So some words that are centered around the idea of organization, for instance, those that deal with trust between people, credibility from one group to another, for instance, either that or the whole sense of cohesion and coherence in a social cohesion in a society. So let's say we were to build out a sentence from here without using the concepts of decorum, etiquette, or gentility. Maybe instead of using the word values, for instance, right, from their, let's follow through from the sentence, from their efforts, attempts to raise their children well, okay, ensuring that. So in this case, societal implications that are based on organization tends to center around maybe culture and society. So I could just simply ensuring that their socialization, okay, or maybe ensuring their socialization as well-adjusted citizens, okay, is accomplished. So in a sense, the common recurrent theme of organization in terms of relationships, interactions at social, political level, cultural level within people is reflected in the idea of well-adjusted citizens and their socialization. So these words, socialization, well-adjusted citizens, for instance, are in a sense conceptually different from, say, decorum, etiquette, and gentility, which are value concepts. So in a sense, again, same thing. For these four criteria, all the different words that are most useful can, in a way, be thought through, can be preset by students in advance. So at the moment you want to work on the concept of livelihood or organization, in this case, for instance, or values, then which is a more useful word that will surface up relative to the example, all right? So hopefully this gives you a better understanding or overview of paragraph writing. And to sum it up, there is a summative sheet on your prepared documents as well, which demonstrate all these different aspects of the paragraph writing process. And we'll be looking in detail each of these in lessons number 8, lesson number 9, lesson number 10 and 11, and hopefully this let you see at a glance, right? So to recap again for today's discussion, PEL structure is not so much to, in a sense, get you to write by rote or memory, but it's to get you to work with a consistent set of deliberations and decision points. When you write the topic sentence or the points, you're telling your reader what is the issue. When you work on elaboration, you're looking at how the issue came to be in terms of factors of situation, mindset, action, relationship, and trend. When you're working on exemplification, you're giving specific details in terms of situation, thing, event, and persons. And when you work on link, it is not just about repeating the sentence only. It's not just about repeating the paragraph, the main key idea points, but it's about showing as well the effects of society in terms of livelihood, organization, values, experience, right? So hopefully in our next few lessons, as we run through each of these in detail, you will have a better sensing of it. And by the end of it, hopefully you'll be able to have a good understanding of how the whole paragraph writing process can take place in both a predictable, consistent, and coherent manner, right? So thank you so much, and we share with all these in our next lesson. Thank you.